BYOT. Bring your own tacos. Dick swinging.
You're listening to American Slacker Podcast.
We can say fuck.
With Matthew Gertz and Jesse Landers.
I don't care, I've been smoking, this is cool.
That's a decent amount of sausage.
This man needs a doctor!
Yeah, I just hope they're tasty.
What's up with these clowns, man?
Cut the lights and went through people's pockets.
Don't you point that at each other.
Let them smoke a little. You need to step it up to that point. We're not gonna lead with the.
We're not gonna lead with
I had a band back in because it was 95. I'm an old man. I'm 41.
So yeah, we're right behind you.
So it was called Beautiful, and the name of the band was the opposite of what we sounded like, and that was kind of the whole point of the music. It was nasty jazz punk noise sort of stuff, and we booked a little tour. It might have even been just one show, I can't remember, but we played in Houston. I think we're out in New Orleans, so it was a 5 or 6 hour drive. And I think my lead singer had a big bus, so a big van, so we used that as our little tour bus and went down and played some show in at an art museum, with some. I think we the opening band was just a whole bunch of guys in a circle playing drums, one of those kind of shows. And
circle action. Yeah.
Yeah, a little circle.
Do the wave.
Drum off. Yeah,
circle drum off.
It was a very odd experience anyway. And so we're driving home. We didn't even stay the night. We went, did that. We're driving home. It's 3 a.m, and we see something it's one of those parts of the highway interstate where there's no lights at all. But we see something in the median. And so it looked like a truck had flipped over. So we pull over, and we're the first ones on the scene. And this truck had flipped, and it was this big group of kind of douchebag party guys that had all packed in the back of this pickup truck. Oh. And the truck had flipped, and there was 10 or 12 guys, just
douchebags all over the road.
Oh, God bless them. They were. It was horrible. Jesus. Because there was one guy had his arm ripped off. Oh, and one guy's just walking around in a daze covered in blood.
Holy fuck!
And my bass player ran up to the guy with the arm ripped off. He took off his belt and made a tourniquet right there. And one of the other guys, this was way before cell phones, but I think that we started flagging down cars, and I run up to this one guy who's literally laying in a pool of blood, of his own blood. And I go up to him and I start doing CPR, and I start praying for him. And I'm just I'm laying hands on him, praying, Jesus, please heal him, God. Please, Lord, I raise this guy from the dead. I don't know what the fuck's going on. It's
damn.
Freaking, I didn't know what to do. I was going back to my Catholic years of school, and God, I just want you, just please. And no, this guy was dead. This guy, I remember I started doing CPR, and he started breathing for a second. I'm like, holy shit. But then just blood just started spewing out of his mouth.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And it's one of those experiences in your life that changes your life,
Yeah, shit gets real after that.
Yeah,
You're in a bit of shock yourself.
Yeah, well, got back in the car, and literally I'm from my knees down, I'm covered in this guy's blood.
Holy crap.
And it was just one of those moments that you just realize how precious life is, and like how finite life is, and just makes you rethink your life. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also to wear your seatbelt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, not to pile up in the back of a truck. You know?
Yeah,
But
man.
all I can think about is like a whole like city's life changed right there, because that was like 12 people. It's probably all from the same neighborhood, probably all like families that knew each other. And God, like just like hug your loved ones, you know, like
right,
and be happy with be like in the moment, like love the people around you, because you just never know. You know?
Yeah. Right? Yeah. You can be having the time of your life and then that happens, because obviously they were having a good old time, and then, you know,
exactly.
Did anybody survive? Like, how bad was the real outcome?
I have no clue. I mean, there was a couple of people that looked like they were still alive, but who the hell knows? I mean, they probably live with that shit to this day, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy shit. So, hey, that's a great story for you.
Oh, yeah. That's I've got to say that's a real way to start the show. Welcome to the Slacker Podcast. As always, I'm Matt,
and I am Jesse. And today we're joined by Joe Badon, director, writer, editor, man who witnessed his life fall between the fingers of fate.
Man.
It's starting out intense here.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, no problem. Thank you so much. Now, I do want to say that I wasn't the editor on the film.
Okay.
I guess I was kind of co-editor, maybe, or maybe just kind of like the guy that stood in the corner while the editor edited and said, hey, could you change this? Let's try this different.
The main editor was Joseph Estrade?
Yeah, he still won't tell me how to pronounce his last name.
Okay, so it's not just me.
Yeah. I said, is it Estrade or Estrade? And he's like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, okay, sure.
Like Eric Estrada? That's like what I go to.
So I have no idea, but he did a fantastic job on the editing. So
yeah, and the movie that we're talking about is The God Inside My Ear, which is your baby, it feels like.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, totally. You know, it's just something that I've wanted to do since probably a teenager. You know, when I really started getting into movies heavily, you know, I've always wanted to make a film, and it's not like the only story I ever had in me. It was just one of those things where I finally, you know, I turned the corner of 40 and talked to my wife, and I was like, you know what, this is like one of those bucket list things where I need to make a movie. And so she was like all on board. And so, you know, I don't know if you guys are writers or anything. But usually if you're doing a podcast, you're probably got your hand in a bunch of other things too. But
I've dabbled in writing some scripts.
But you know how it is, like I have like a shelf full of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of, you know what I mean? So I kind of picked the easiest one that I had on the shelf, you know, and kind of went with that.
Worked away at it. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you want to give sort of a synopsis of the film?
Sure. Yeah. So the movie, it's kind of hard to summarize, but
true.
but I had to do it a couple times for like IMDb and shit, and so the closest I can get to it is that it's a young girl by the name of Elysia who gets broken up with her boyfriend named Fred, who goes off to join a UFO cult. And after that happens, she starts hearing hearing voices and seeing visions and having all sorts of weird experiences. And so it's kind of her quest to figure out what all these experiences mean. And so that's what ends up happening for the rest of the story.
And the visuals throughout this film are incredible and like really like interesting in the way that the symmetry in a lot of the shots, the editing, the use of multiple frames on the screen at once,
the odd transitions. There's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot to draw the eye, man. And it definitely will keep you peeled to the screen. That's for sure. Some trippy moments in there, man. Oof.
Yeah, thanks. You know, this was basically like, like throwing spaghetti on the wall sort of thing, and everything that would stuck, and that's kind of what I was doing. I was trying to just throw everything at this movie. Like, this is the only movie I'll ever get a chance to make, so I'm going to put every idea that I can.
But it seemed like precision spaghetti throwing, because you did a lot of the storyboarding, or all of the storyboarding for like every shot in the movie, which became your playbook. It seemed like.
Oh, totally. Well, especially because we shot it in 13 days.
Wow.
And we spent $8,000. And we spent a little bit more on the afterwards, like, because we had to buy a little bit of rights for songs, and we spent a little bit of money on a little bit of sound work on the end. So it ended up being a little closer to 10 grand total, but still
like this.
Yeah. But as far as like before post-production, everything, it was $8,000. And so because of that, we were on a tight schedule with no money. And so we had to make sure every shot counted, that we weren't wasting time. We weren't sitting around trying to figure out how we were going to line up a shot, or how this story was going to, or this scene was going to play out. So I made sure I storyboarded the entire film, and I had done that for a living, like, because I'm a full-time, freelance artist, and so I did storyboards for movies and TV shows and shit. And so I knew what to do there, and I knew that if I didn't have that we would end up probably spending like 3 times the amount of money and time on it. So.
Absolutely. It's like what an ounce of planning is like a pound of production or whatever. Yeah, completely. It's so true. And like, I have, worked on movie sets and also like done stuff. Like, I was a youth pastor for actually, 12 years. And during that time, we did all sorts of stupid shit, like vacation Bible schools and all this, like, plays and true. A lot of planning probably went into that.
And and so like I had never done that stuff, but like just, like, here, you're supposed to do this now. Like, oh, okay, now I got to figure out how to run a play or do a musical or some crap. And so like that was like actually great learning experiences for doing this movie. Because you just learn how to like get all that shit prepared, how to like make sets and all that sort of stuff. So,
yeah, true. How long did the actual process of this film? You were talking about the tight schedule. But
sure.
Was it truly 8 days?
Oh, it's 13 days.
13
it was
days. Okay, I'm mixed up. That's crazy.
Oh no, it's fine.
That's crazy,
that's just for shooting. Now, like, as far as
of course, production. Yeah.
Right. It was. Took me about 3 months. Well, I wrote the script in 3 months, and then it was about 3 months of finding the cast and crew, and also we doing table reads and auditions and all that stuff. And also in that 3 months of also finding all the locations and all the pre-production stuff. Okay. And then it was 13 days of shooting. It was actually, so you could say 14, but it was like basically 12 days and then 2 half days. So I'm kind of taking those 2 half days, because like 2 days that were like, one was 4 hours and one was 5 hours. So I'm just considering that one day.
Right.
That's 4 hour day is not a day at all, really.
Considering how traditional movies are shot. I mean, this is an hour and a half film. The big Hollywood budget one is going to be months upon months in shooting alone. I mean, that's amazing. You cram it down with the storyboard. The time you probably put into the storyboarding is what really saved you, though, like you were saying.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I had my AD, the assistant to the director, Aria Mickenberg. She just basically kept the book open, the storyboard book, and when we finished shot, she'd circle it in red, and we'd go to the next shot. And so, like, at the very last day, we were able to like close the book and look. We were able to look through the entire book and see every shot was circled in red. And we were done, which was a great feeling.
Oh, I bet. That accomplishment.
Yeah.
Hell of a checklist.
Yeah, man.
Completely. So it was 13 days of shooting, and then it was 6 months of editing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which it's just freaking nuts.
Yeah. Editing seems to be the least fun and the most time consuming process for the film.
Could be frustrating.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And it wasn't necessarily something I could just hand off to Joseph, my editor, for mainly because he didn't want to edit it without really me being there, because this wasn't necessarily you seeing the film. It wasn't necessarily a traditional film where it's just like, oh yeah, this is a drama. You just throw this shit together and just make sure everybody,
right? Like wide, medium, close, wide, medium, close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's like all sorts of like inset shots and all sorts of trippy, hallucinogenic scenes. And there's lots of like visuals that were in my head that Joseph, the editor, wanted to make sure I got it on the screen.
Like the one that comes to mind is the scene with the shapes and the gnome.
Yeah.
I actually,
as like a still frame, that could be like a piece of art too.
Yeah.
That was I love Dadaist art and video, and Dada was a movement back in the 1920s where it was basically art with no meaning. And so a lot of if you look up Dada animation on YouTube, there's a lot of just shape animation. It's just like these guys back in the 1920s, and they were just like, it's just, back then they were fascinated with somebody just a walking animation. Like it was just fascinating for any kind of animation, but they were like animating circles and squares and triangles. They were just doing all these shape animations. And so I wanted to do something similar in this movie. And so I did that whole little animation. It wasn't hard. I just did it, created it. And I used GIMP, and I used, what is that fucking Apple
iMovie?
Not iMovie, but the one above that, whatever that is, film, whatever. Oh, Final Cut. So
Final Cut.
Yeah, Final Cut. And I just kind of moved shapes around, is all I did. And then afterwards, Joseph was like, this scene doesn't make any sense. And so I was like, what are we going to do here? He's like, well, why don't we add the gnome inside of the triangle, and it'll feel a little bit more like connected. So like that made it even creepier, just that gnome inside.
Yeah, man, that's I was talking to Jesse when I was watching that part, and I was like, what is this?
And I was like, yeah, man, it's a little out there.
I was like, this is trippy. Oh my god. Yeah, that's when I said trippy earlier, I was thinking of that fucking gnome, man.
Nice. Yes. Yeah, and that I created music for that little scene. I did some of the music, and it's all just in Apple GarageBand, just me fucking around in that program. Because it's funny because I'm totally into DIY sort of low budget. I love like lo-fi sort of shit. And it was funny because I was originally going to shoot the film myself. I was going to like buy like an iPhone and just shoot it like Tangerine sort of thing. Where
I know Tangerine.
As like lo-fi and on the fly as possible. And then Daniel Waghorn, my cinematographer, contacted me, and he's like, I'd like to check out the script. And so he read the script. He said he wanted to film it, and as you can tell, his cinematography is like freaking gorgeous. It's really like so lush and beautiful. And
it reminds me of like Wes Anderson in certain shots.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. It's funny too, because that wasn't something he like necessarily wanted to do. He wasn't opposed to it, but he definitely came from much more of a documentary sort of style. And so I was kind of like wanting to do these very, very flat shots. And it was always kind of like I had to like go back and use Wes Anderson. Like I want to do Wes Anderson style shots for some scenes. So like all the department store scenes are all very flat.
That's what I was thinking of, like with the cabinets and how it was like symmetrical on either side, and the person was placed right in the middle.
Yeah, totally. And I was totally going for Wes Anderson feel for that. And that was actually, it was more of a Jared Hess feel.
Okay.
Napoleon Dynamite and stuff.
Yep.
Especially there's I was thinking of the scene where they go get the suit for prom. There's the deleted scene where they actually go to the Goodwill and buy the suit. And I was thinking about that scene, the deleted scene where they actually go buy the suit and they actually steal the suit from Goodwill in the deleted. But and I just love like the guy behind the counter is just this non-actor that just like talks terribly, and I loved it. I loved how kitschy and dumb it was,
Well, it's like a Tim and Eric thing. Where
completely! Oh my
just
gosh,
normal people.
Dude, have y'all watched Bedtime Stories?
Oh yeah, Bedtime Stories was out there.
Dude, it's like blew my mind. It's like exactly shit I want to do.
Actually, that would be fun to come up with.
God, it's like their version of Twilight Zone, and I love it. But anyway, so so those department store scenes were very much like Wes Anderson, Jared Hess.
But also they were, if you put them alongside the scenes at the end, the brightness of those compared to the darkness towards the end of the film, it's like a nice juxtaposition.
Totally. I really wanted this movie to go from like slow burn and funny to chaotic and crazy. And I wanted it to have like a kind of a roller coaster feel where you kind of go up the roller coaster and then at the end you go down and it's fucking crazy,
Yep.
I think you definitely pulled it off, man. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it definitely is a ride, this movie. And it's fucking unexpected where it ends up. Like it has it's not like a crazy twist, but it's like unexpected, I think you delivered that well without pulling the whole crazy, like, oh my God, what a twist, like it was.
And after seeing it once through, I feel like you definitely baked certain things into this writing that it deserves that second watch, so that it's like, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely worried about it, about that. People picking up the second watch, like picking up things. But I actually we did a screening with some people that had watched it one time already. Mm-hmm. We just did it the other day, and they had come up to me and said, watching it a second time, we picked up on all these clues that we just didn't notice before. And I think it's because there's so much weird imagery thrown at you that there's definitely like the idea where you think, oh, none of this is just weird for weird's sake. And then watching the second time, you realize, oh no, some of these things really do mean something to the story,
that to put that to like something that also recently came out, Hereditary, kind of. I feel like there was some things like that kind of tied back in that way within your movie as well, like where with the referencing and how you think it's just nonsense, but it all sort of ties together.
Hereditary was great with that. There was plenty of things that I was watching. I was like, oh, they're just trying to like cutting the bird's head off and like things like that. And like, oh, they're just trying to be creepy. And then by the end you go, oh, that's what it is. I think about, you ever seen Kung Pao?
Oh yeah. I love that movie.
Like at the end he's like, stars above, like remember that, stars above. It's so stupid. I love it.
Oh, that's a classic right there.
Yeah, totally. Well, I wanted to say God, I like my family, like all we do is quote that movie like all the time. Like, shut Ripper. And God, there's so many stupid.
We mistrained him purposely as a joke.
I love it.
That's hilarious. So you seem to have like a really funny sense of humor too. Like with Tim and Eric, Kung Pao, stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. And what's funny was like writing the script, I wasn't meaning to make it into a comedy. And it's not like The Room where like I'm trying to be serious, but it's just like so bad it's funny. But it's like more like I'm very sarcastic and I'm and I'm like always thinking of jokes, and then pretty much like half the lines in the movie are me just being sarcastic, and I didn't really even put it together until we started filming it.
Okay.
And we're you know, everybody's acting the lines, and we're all cracking up on this, how how stupid like most of the lines are, because I'm just like can't help but write sarcasm into every piece of dialogue, you know.
I picked up on that a little bit. I wouldn't say it was overburdened with sarcasm though, or anything.
In my mind, I was being probably more sarcastic than it even comes across. But
you'll always be your hardest critic.
Yeah.
yeah, totally. But yeah, no, I definitely like to inject. My favorite movies are movies that don't take themselves too seriously, but still might have like some contemplative things, you know, inside the story. Like my favorite movie of all time is True Stories. It's a movie by David Byrne, and the movie is it's a comedy, but there's all these like heavy commentaries about society and about you know, finding love, and about like big business and corporations, and all these things, and what happiness really means, and all this sort of stuff, and it's all weaved in there like real heavily, but the movie is really sarcastic and really funny.
Wow, I haven't seen that since I was like a wee bitty lad. I can't even remember any of this, but I the one thing that John Goodman in that blue suit, I know this.
Yes, I think that was his acting debut, if I remember correctly. And he's like so freaking hilarious in that film. But
that's amazing. Yeah, it's got a good rating too. So
yeah. So I always have to like have that sense of humor in there. When movies take themselves too seriously, I just roll my eyes, you know,
and cringe almost, man.
Yeah, totally. Like, and also, I love the idea of mixing genres. You know, like where you know, I mean, Hollywood has figured this out. There's always a romantic part in a movie, and there's always a comic relief, because they realize that
that's the human condition.
Yeah, if it's just straight action, just straight horror or whatever, that it just gets boring. But they add those things in, like romance for, you know, if the guy's taking his girl, their girl's going to watch it for the romance. The guy's going to watch it for the blood. You know, the kids are going to watch it for the comic relief. And so they have all these different like little aspects. But and so they figured it out, but they do it terribly. And Hollywood usually does it terribly because they feel they just shoehorn that stupid shit in there.
Fucking shove it right in there.
Just you know,
like, make up a scene and put it in the middle.
Yeah, you know, like it's very frustrating to watch like a great action film, and you know that romantic like scene is like just shoehorned in there just to make everyone happy, you know. But I do love the idea of mixing genres and like, you know, having a sci-fi horror comedy that's psychedelic, you know. This is like great. It's like the only way that I think is the only way for us to move forwards in cinema. It's kind of like, you know, how like with food, the only way that the only new food is like fusion, like they're doing American and Vietnamese and you know, Mexican fusion now, you know. And so it's like a way for chefs to kind of get out of the rut of just doing one style.
And artists in general blend and borrow usually.
Yeah, totally. And that's the only way for new genres of music pop up, is because, you know, they took reggae and they took, you know, jazz, and all of a sudden you have whatever, you have, you know, some sort of rock thing, or, you know, whatever. And so it's the only way for new genres to pop up. And I feel like movies are the one thing that they don't do it enough of, and it's the only way to discover new genres, I think, is to mix genres together. So,
and do you think that like the way that you can put a movie out now, like without a big production company behind you and like a network or anything like that, do you think that lends to opening to that kind of creativity?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because now you don't have to worry about like these producer investors that are going to make you fall in line because you have to make a movie that sells. You can go out there with no money and just make the movie you want,
Yep.
But the problem with that as well is now that there's a shitload of movies being made every year. It's like crazy amount of movie. Like,
Oh yeah.
like back in like the 90s, if you made a full length film, you're going to be able to sell that film to some distributor. Like even if it's complete garbage, I mean, Clerks is a prime example of like this, he just put this film
Sold
together.
on Miramax, right?
Right, exactly. And now that's like kind of 1 in a million, but still, even if any guy back in the 90s were to make a full-length film, they could sell it and actually make profit from it. But nowadays, like, it's funny, the distributors that have gotten a hold of me are like one distributor wanted me to pay them $10,000 to distribute my movie.
It's like that's not how this works.
Wait, what? and what, then most of them don't want to pay you anything up front. They're like, we're going to pay you when we make money, you make money. Like, okay, sure. And it's funny because like, it doesn't take much to just read article after article about these guys who were like, oh, sure, you're a distribution company, here's my movie, and they never see a dime. And that happens like every story I hear. They never see money.
That's
so
like
that's
putting your final product out there and getting no return on it, really.
Yeah, totally. So that's
we do that with the podcast, but we're schmucks, so no one should follow us for business advice.
Well, it's also like when you spend 2 years of your life like putting something together and spending all your savings, and then it's like, hey, we'll give you $1,000. Like, wah, wah,
Ooh,
And so that's kind of the place where I'm at right now. It's very strange. And so yeah, it's a exciting time for films because anybody can make a film, but it's very depressing because nobody can make money from a film right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've been going to a lot of film festivals with this film, right?
Yeah, we're finally getting into film festivals. We've been submitting for months, and of course you have to wait months to hear back. And it was probably the first 2 months of hearing back was like rejection, which is very normal.
Okay.
But it was funny because I was sitting around waiting for like, like I didn't know what else to do. Just spend money and put my movie into festivals. And so then I decided to just one day Google film festivals are a scam. Just Google them. And all these articles came up, and article after article was saying, if you want to get into film festivals, then you send an email to the film festival and say, hey, I want to get into your festival. Here's my trailer. Give me a fee waiver to get in for free. And you'll get into you'll have like, it's like 3 times more of a chance to get into film festivals. So,
wow.
And so I was like, okay, I spent all my money, all my budget, my submissions budget. I spent a bunch of money submitting. So I decided I'm going to do this. So I sent out hundreds of emails and got into, I got about 80 fee waivers.
Oh, wow.
Hundreds of film festivals. And then I'm starting to get into film festivals, like the ones that I got in for free, I'm getting into. Because
that's fantastic.
It's kind of strange. Like I'm realizing, I have to hack this. You have to like hack everything just for things to work. Like the way that you're supposed to go about it is never the way that actually succeeds. It's
like no. You're following the instructions. See what you gotta do. Just go in the back door.
Yeah.
And so another kind of hack that I did was I was waiting around to get into festivals for reviewers to review my movie, because you get into festivals, then reviewers see see it at the festival and they review your movie. That's like the traditional way to do things.
Okay.
And so I was just like, I'm not getting into festivals. I'm not getting my movie reviewed. It's just sitting there. So I just decided, you know what? I literally started just emailing. Like, I've probably sent out thousands of emails to reviewers. Wow. And that was one way how I got in touch with you guys as well.
Yeah, through Instagram. That's how we made contact with a lot of people, actually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but most of them I never hear back from. The vast majority. But then guys like you actually, yeah. But then guys like you actually dig the trailer and actually dig the scene, and so you actually want to check it out. Like, and so instead of like some reviewer that might see it at a festival, like you guys, like, check out the trailer, you're into it, and it's something that you want to check out, instead of like, being forced to sit through something because you have to do this for the online magazine.
Good point.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And so you're excited for it. And so because of that, I got reviewed in Scream magazine, and got reviewed at comiccon.com and a whole bunch of like decent like websites that are, online magazines.
Good exposure. Yeah.
Yeah. And because of that, film festivals contacted me and was like, hey, I see that things are happening with your movie. I'd like to check it out. And so it's just, it's goofy, like the silly games you have to play just to like see, like, to make it seem like something's happening,
You got to do what everyone else isn't, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but it's cool because then like with you guys, you saw it, you watched the movie, you really dug it, and so you're excited about talking about it, which is fantastic.
Yeah, man, we love, like, we're in the same boat. Like, we're always creating, we're always working on something. And so, like, when we see something like this, a movie like that, like, you put this grind into, and you could tell it was a lot of work. It's not just thrown together like a lot of these movies you'll find today. And just, we appreciate so much of what you did, like, with putting in the work to this, the art of it.
The fact that you reach out on your own. And
in that too.
Like, this is my art here.
Yeah.
Like, check it out.
Yeah,
that's so much more like, if I saw it as a sponsored advertisement, I'd breeze right past it. But the fact that it's being sent to me from that person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I talked to a few like sales agents where I could have just pawned this movie off to a sales agent who would have done all this work. You probably would have never gotten contacted because they would have only been going to like Variety, and they would have been going to like, all these big shot guys who they don't give a shit about the movie anyway.
Right.
But they would have. So anyway, like, I talked to a few sales agents, a producer rep. Like, some guys wanted me to pay them. Some guys were like, the main thing was basically like, we'll represent you, and you'll probably not get any money for it. But I'll make sure you get distribution. Wow. Yeah, I'll make sure you get distribution, and I'll make sure you you get promoted, basically.
I'd be like, so you're a sales rep, and that's your pitch to me?
Yeah, basically. Yes, totally. And like, you might get your money back. Like, I might get $8,000. Thank you. Wow, this is fantastic for all your work. And then you'll take 25%. That's fantastic. Man. I love this. So then I just said, screw it. I work, like, I sell art out in New Orleans. Like, that's what I do. I literally sell art on the street. That's what I do for a living.
I've seen your Instagram too. You have some really cool drawings on there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Thank you. But anyway, so I was just saying that to say, like, that's all I do. And besides that, I go home and hang out with my wife and kids. And so, like, my wife will tell you, get super bored if I don't have a project. So I'm like, well, I'll just make this my project of doing interviews and getting reviews out there and being my own sales agent, and just do that. And I'd much rather, like, I trust myself, but I don't trust this guy from Los Angeles that I've never met. like who's probably got like 40 other films that he represents and doesn't really even care about my film. That was another thing too, talking to these this one guy. He, I sent him the movie, and then I talked to him, and then after talking to him for a little while, realized he didn't even watch the film.
Oh shit!
Like I'm not even sure if he watched the trailer.
What a dick!
And I was just like, never mind. Yeah.
What a dick.
Yeah.
So you're gonna talk to a guy like, yeah, I watched it, man, and like not even fucking watch the trailer. Like, come on.
Exactly.
So your film's about puppies, right?
Exactly.
I saw a dog in the trailer.
Right. So it's like one of those Romeo and Juliet movies, right? Like it's got a gnome in it.
You just fucking it's a totally family friendly. They love dogs. They'll love this film.
All right, we'll contact Disney.
Right. Totally. So yeah. So it's just I know I trust myself, and with my art, when I first started, I had to do a whole lot of bullshit and just to pretend like I was like I knew what I was doing, so that I could get freelance work. And so I'm basically kind of doing the same thing with this. Like, hey, look. Everybody knows about this movie, right? Look, just drumming up, buzz, and so that's what I'm trying to do right now, and it's actually paying off. We got into Film Quest just a few days ago, and that's like one of the biggest film festivals in the world. It's in the top 50.
That's awesome.
Which was amazing. I couldn't believe it. Like, I got the director contacted me, the festival director, and he's like, "You're in," and I was like, "Holy shit! Like, this is a big deal,
Now, when does that take place?
That's hold on, September 11th, which is
that's coming up.
Scary.
Yep, it's coming up. Now, are you going out there? You're going to be out there.
I am. I'm definitely going out to that one. I was kind of waiting to see if I get into any big ones. So got into that one. It's in Provo, Utah, on September 11th, and. Man, that's awesome. Going out there, we're going to do a Q&A afterwards, and it's exciting.
Jesus, how many films do you know are going to be like in your category? Like shit ton?
I think that at that festival, I think there's like 10 films altogether. So
okay.
Yeah, that's not
pretty
bad.
Good, man. That's awesome. Really good. Wow.
I know, it's pretty exciting.
Jesus. Yeah, man, it's like owning a sports team and it makes it to the finals. I know how you love the sports.
Yeah, go Bears.
Man. Real quick, I want to touch on this. I have assumed that you're a Star Wars fan because I saw you did a little piece on behind the scenes on the movie, and then
yeah,
because I had watched
Absolutely.
that. I watched that, and then I watched the film, and I noticed you snuck a Star Wars reference in there, man.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Now, was that like before even creating the film? You were like, I'm gonna fucking put a reference in this film. Like, was that like one of those, or you're just like writing? You're like, you know what? Fuck it, this fits.
Yeah, no, totally. It was just like at the moment. I thought
not premeditated Star Wars fan.
Yeah, make a funny joke. I mean, I grew up watching Star Wars so much. My dad had a Betamax machine.
Oh wow.
And this was before Star Wars ever came out. He got like a bootleg copy of Star Wars. Oh, and it was like one of those guys, one of those things where somebody actually videotaped it.
You hear people like...
Yeah, exactly. And I watched that until literally it was just snow on the screen because there was I watched so much. And my dad said I would sit there and watch it and just watch the snow. And every once in a while, the video would come in and I would watch that little chunk until it snowed out again. I lived by watching. I watched the behind the scenes of the trilogy probably like 8,000 times. I think it was called SPFX.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched that thing over and over. So I probably Star Wars myself out, like, cause by the time the new ones came out, I was just like, okay, like I watched them, but I had I like have eaten so much Star Wars in my life that if I never eat Star Wars, it'll be fine. You know?
Yep. Yeah. Especially, it's a whole different thing. The new ones, especially.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, they try their
whole
best to make them feel like they're like old and like in the film. But
Last Jedi was pretty good.
Yeah,
I really liked The Last Jedi, but I can understand why people didn't. But what I loved about it was that they burned the whole motherfucker down. That's what I loved.
Absolutely.
They said you guys that want us to just keep making rehashed original trilogies, because that's what I hated about what was it, Force Awakens, because it was just a rehash. It was a total rehash of the first 3 movies. And this one literally burned down the story, like burned the tree down, said like the Force is for everybody, and that to me was beautiful. I thought that was a wonderful thing. But
it's a cool way to look at it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. But it was also like, it's funny because I like kind of went through like a time where I was like real fervent conservative Christian. I was basically like kind of in a cult basically, and kind of getting out of that was watching The Last Jedi was like this kind of thing where I saw like parallels where Yoda was like basically like, look, this thing is not just for the Jedi, this is for everyone, and like have a sense of humor. I mean, he's laughing about it like he would in Empire Strikes Back. He was like the old Empire Yoda, like back again, and just kind of like, let's burn it down and give it to everyone, and it was beautiful. But anyway,
that's awesome. So you definitely know your Star Wars, it seems like.
Yeah, totally. Now I don't know the expanded universe. These guys, like when I sell out in New Orleans, these guys that walk up and want to talk to me about, book 27 of the expanded universe with like Darth Farthead or whatever, and I just have no idea what the hell they're talking about, and so I don't know any of that shit.
It's like you said something about Count Dooku, but actually,
Exactly. There was this one Darth guy that lived on a planet, and he could control planets, and he just made his own planet, and I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm lost, man.
Yeah, totally.
I'm like a gnome in a triangle. It's like, I have no idea what's going on.
Exactly.
You are too wise, young Jedi.
Well, I thank you for providing us with some of your time. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for watching the movie and having me on.
Watch it again, man. It needs a second watch, and it's one of those. There's a lot to pick up on in the beginning. I want to look for now.
Yeah, and I mean, if y'all ever want to discuss it further, like I would love to be on again, or if y'all just like email me and be like, Joe, like I don't get this at all.
I have a theory.
Let me know.
Yeah,
totally. And go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, with this movie, one thing I'm trying to tell people as well is like I want everybody to kind of come up with their own conclusions about things.
Okay.
I definitely have my own ideas of what I believe it means, and to me personally, but I think everybody's personal interpretation should be like the correct interpretation.
Okay.
And mainly because I've always hated it when I've watched a movie. I love a movie, and I'm just like, I understand what it means, and then I watch an interview with the director, and then they tell you what it means, and then you're like, oh, that's not what I thought it meant.
Take a different interpretation.
Yeah, and it kind of ruins the personal interpretation that you had. I think totally. And then it's no longer like your own. It's like, that's the great thing about movies. You watch them, and then you like personalize them, and then you like it like has personal meaning. But when someone dictates to you what that meaning of that piece of art is, then it no longer is your personal meaning. No longer, you can't like grab it and own it.
It becomes like a question on a quiz. There's a right answer and a wrong answer.
Yeah, totally.
Just what you feel.
Totally. And that's, man, movies have changed my life through the years. Like you you know how it is, or like a song, you like listen to a song, you like, especially in high school, I'd listen to a song, read the lyrics, and it would like, I'd be crying and be like, this is great. This means something to me. And then like years later, you find out that it didn't mean that shit at all. Those guys were just like, they had just, you know, like taken heroin and they wrote the lyrics about, you know, I don't know, some shit they were thinking about. It didn't mean anything what you thought it meant, you know?
Yeah.
So personal interpretation, I think, is like it's like the spice of life. It's like what we have worth living for. So whatever y'all's personal interpretation is the truth. But yeah, if you ever want to know what it really means, what I think it means, I can tell you.
If I ever want to break the illusion.
Yeah. But,
anyway. Man. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it goes with life. I mean, we're all just stumbling, trying to figure our way through this fucking shit. So, I mean, why not with the movie try to figure out what the fuck it is, you know?
Yeah, totally.
It's a mini adventure on your own, you know?
Yeah.
So where can people get the film? How do they get a viewing of this?
Sure. Right now, you can go to the website, thegodinsidemyear.com, and we're updating with screenings across the world, really, I guess.
Awesome.
Right. You know, so you can go to screening section. It's just all one page, and we have a section with screenings, and we're always updating when we get new ones. I've submitted to like 120 festivals, and so we're definitely going to get into a bunch. Like, I think we're right now, we're playing at about 10 or 11. We've only heard back from about 30. So that's a good ratio. So
is this mainly in the Louisiana area or
all over? No. All over. Yeah, cool. Yeah, totally. I think our premiere was in Ecuador.
Oh wow.
Like some little bitty festival in Ecuador. And so yeah, no, it's playing all over the place. Utah and Michigan and Massachusetts and everywhere. So
sweet. That's awesome.
Yep.
And also, do you want to give the people your Instagram so they can see that sweet art?
Yeah, I think it's Joe Badon Art. JoeBadonArt.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah. And you can go to my blog, joebadon.blogspot.com. I haven't updated it in like 6 months, but you know, that's where my art is as well. And you can just friend me on Facebook, Joe Badon, if you look that up.
Cool. So. Awesome. Add them up, people. Swarm them. Get them.
Yes.
Alrighty, people. You can check out our brand new website at AmericanSlackerPodcast.com. It'll also have the links to all of the social media, the Facebook, Twitter, the YouTube, Instagram. And it has all the episodes up there, along with some sweet American Slacker merch, if you're looking for some.
You can also send us an email at AmericanSlackerPodcast.com, join the Facebook group, and give us the old 5 stars on iTunes, and tell a friend about the show. Make another slacker. That's what we always like to say.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on. We really, really appreciate it.
Dude, this was fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. I really had fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man, and the honor was all ours. And we'll be back on after the festival run.
Or your second movie. I'm looking forward.
Yeah. When I make my second movie, I'm definitely going to send it to you guys.
Sweet.
Oh, definitely do, man. Definitely do.
Awesome.
Alrighty, people. We love everyone for tuning in. And until next time, that's it.
There you go.